Abercrombie & Fitch is being taken to the Supreme Court over a case involving a 17-year-old girl back in 2008 who did not get hired because she wanted to wear a hijab. Now, 17-year-old Samantha showed up to the interview wearing a black hijab, and it actually goes against some of the policies, the look policies that Abercrombie & Fitch has. So according to court proceedings and court documents, Samantha is quoted as saying, "I learned I was not hired by Abercrombie because I wear a headscarf, which is a symbol of modesty in my Muslim faith." Now, Abercrombie claims in a court brief that her scarf infringed on the company's policy because the company explicitly forbids its, quote, models, as sales staffs are called, from wearing the color black or from sporting headwear in store, which is why she was not offered the job. Now, what's really interesting about this case is initially it went to a judge in Oklahoma, and the judge ruled against Abercrombie & Fitch. He said, look, this is discrimination, and so I'm going to go ahead and rule against Abercrombie & Fitch. Abercrombie & Fitch appealed the case, and it went to a higher court, and in that case, the judge overturned the lower court's ruling. Then it finally made its way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court will make a ruling on this in June. Now, Abercrombie & Fitch claims, no, we're not discriminating. It's just that if you want to make a religious exception, or you want us to make a religious exception, there's some paperwork you need to file, and you need to let us know ahead of time. And unfortunately, in this case, you didn't do it, so we didn't know you wanted that religious exception.
Okay, so this is a roller coaster ride of a story for me. So one of the excuses that Abercrombie & Fitch gave was, oh, we didn't do it because she was Muslim. We didn't know she was Muslim. Come on, dude.
They said that Sophia Loren would wear headscarves all the time, and that didn't mean that she was Muslim.
Yeah, so you would have wanted to hire Grace Kelly.
Oh, it was Grace Kelly, sorry.
Yeah, but so did Sophia Loren.
Yeah.
So, no, you knew she was Muslim. Okay, you get beyond that, right? But now, on the other hand, she says it's a symbol of my faith and that I must dress modestly. But you're going to work at Abercrombie & Fitch where they're nearly naked.
Okay, so let's stop right there. I don't know if this makes me a bad person, but I think that Abercrombie & Fitch should be allowed to have a policy against hijabs or niqabs or whatever it is, any type of headgear, okay? If they don't want people wearing a baseball cap, whatever it is. And I get it, it's your belief, it is your, religious calling to wear the headscarf.
Then go work somewhere else.
Exactly. So what happens if you go to a place like Hooters, right? And you're like, I want to work at Hooters, but I don't want to show off my boobs. But that's their uniform. And at Abercrombie & Fitch, they don't have a uniform per se, but they have a look policy. There's a certain, look that they're trying to get out there. I don't agree with it, but it is what it is.
No, look, we seem callous, right? And maybe it's easier for us. Maybe we're being biased because we don't believe in religion, right? But I was going to use the same analogy you did, Anna. I mean, what are you going to go to Hooters in a burqa and be like, okay, now I'd like to work at Hooters? But dude, we can't see you. I can't see the shorts. There's nothing orange about you. I don't know.
Nothing orange about you.
Okay, so I mean, you go to a news station, and she's like, okay, I'd like to do the news in a burqa. But that's not what we do here. That's not what we do. We don't do it in a burqa.
You can't.
Now but don't get me wrong. She's not wearing a burqa. She's wearing a hijab, right? And so I would hire her. I don't care, right? But Abercrombie & Fitch does care. So then people say, okay, well then what are you going to do? Not say that they can discriminate against people who are wearing yarmulkes. So that's it. You're not going to hire, observant Jews who are wearing yarmulkes. Yeah, that's not their look. I mean, look, if you say then they have to, well then they certainly have to hire her with the hijab. For like by the way, if you're a conservative, like, oh yeah, these Muslims taking over Sharia law, that's not for us. You know who's on our side? Every other religious group in the country, including Jewish groups, including Christian groups, because they don't want to be, quote unquote, discriminated against.
So I just want to be consistent on issues like this, okay? And oftentimes we report on stories about right-wing pharmacists. We get angry when they refuse to give Plan B to people who are in need of it, or birth control to people who are in need of it, because of their religious beliefs. If you decide to be a pharmacist, then you have to do what the job requires you to do. Now, of course, that's a much more serious example, okay? We're talking about Abercrombie & Fitch. I know that it's not as serious. But you have to be consistent on all issues. If you are not able to handle pork products, you shouldn't be a cashier at a grocery store because you're going to have to handle pork products.
That's an issue that came up in Minnesota. That was another story we did. Well, then you got to get another job. Look, if I went to Abercrombie & Fitch, they're hiring young people with a certain look, and the guys have their shirts off. Whenever I'm serious, by the door, at the Grove, when I go there, the guy's got his shirt off and he's sitting there with his six-pack on. If I went there and I said, "Oh, I'd like to apply," right? No, sorry, that's not the job for you.
And by the way, let me jump in and be absolutely clear about my thoughts on Abercrombie & Fitch. I hate Abercrombie & Fitch's look policy, but that's why I don't shop there.
Yeah, and we're supposed to hate it. I hate it too. And I don't bother going in because they're trying to intimidate you at the door. Yeah. Great, you win. I'm intimidated, I'm not going in, okay? So we got no love for the company, and I mean, she's a fighter, so I like that, right? And she's got a lot of people backing her, but honestly, I just don't agree with her philosophy. I mean, so that the Orthodox Jewish guy can come in, Lubavitch or whoever, whatever it might be. The guys with the, 18th century Russian outfits with the giant hats.
You love to bring up
No,
that example.
I love that because I think it's hilarious. And the Amish dude walks in, and they're all with the Jewish guy with a big coat and a big hat, and the Amish guy with a beard, and the lady Muslim woman in the burqa. But that isn't Abercrombie & Fitch. That's the really weird Orthodox religion store. Make that store, sell burqas and clothing from Russia from the 18th century all day long.
Okay, so just to come full circle with this story, though, there was an interesting outcome in the hiring practices of Abercrombie & Fitch, okay? So the retailer was previously forced to pay out a $71,000 settlement to two other Muslim women who filed discrimination cases against it in September 2013. The company later changed its policy after the settlement to allow employees to wear hijabs at work. Now remember, this woman who is bringing the case all the way to the Supreme Court was discriminated against back in 2008. So their new policy wasn't implemented at that point. But at this point, Abercrombie & Fitch has changed their look policy, and they're like, fine, you can wear headscarves. But that wasn't their, initial policy, and that wasn't what they really wanted.
And some of the civil rights laws passed because you want to get a job in rural Arkansas. There weren't that many jobs to get, right? So it would be too flippant to say, go get another job. But now you live near an Abercrombie & Fitch. Believe me, there are other stores in the area, okay? And there are other jobs in the area. So I'm not trying to be flippant about it. And maybe the Supreme Court will rule the other way and we'll be wrong and, and we're terrible people who discriminate. But it just, as a matter of common sense, doesn't make any sense to me that you're going to go wear something that they don't wear at that job. Just doesn't make sense.